Close your eyes for a second and imagine you're standing on a busy street corner in the year 1899. What do you see? Honestly, you probably smell it before you see it. You see horses, thousands of horses. You see mud, oil lamps, long heavy coats, and a world that moves at exactly 4 miles per hour. People lived, worked, and died within 20 miles of where they were born. If you wanted to talk to someone in another city, you wrote a letter and waited weeks for a reply. If you caught a bad infection, you basically just said your prayers and hoped for the best. Now, blink. Suddenly, it's 1999. You're looking at skyscrapers that touch the clouds, jet engines screaming overhead, the glowing screens of the early internet, and a man-made footprint on the moon. In just 100 years, humanity didn't just progress, we exploded. We went from the horse and buggy to the Hubble Space Telescope. We went from handwritten letters to instant global communication. The 20th century wasn't just another 100 years on the calendar, it was the century that changed absolutely everything about what it means to be human. It was messy, it was beautiful, it was terrifying, and honestly, it was kind of a miracle we survived it. Think about the sheer audacity of the year 1903. Two brothers from Ohio, who literally owned a bicycle shop, decided they were going to solve a problem that had stumped humanity since we first looked at a bird. They built a rickety wooden frame with some fabric and a tiny, vibrating engine, took it to a windy beach in North Carolina, and for 12 seconds, they flew. 12 seconds. That's it. But in those 12 seconds, the world shrank. Suddenly, the horizon wasn't a wall anymore, it was a suggestion. Around that same time, a guy named Henry Ford was tinkering with the idea of the assembly line. Before Ford, a car was a luxury toy for the ultra-rich, something hand-built by artisans. After Ford, the car became the heartbeat of the middle class. We started building roads, then highways, then entire cities designed around the idea that we could go anywhere, whenever we wanted. We were becoming a species in a hurry, and there was no turning back. But as the world got faster, it also got a lot more dangerous. Because the same industrial machines that were building cars and planes were also being turned into weapons of mass destruction. When 1914 rolled around, the world realized that our technology had officially outpaced our wisdom. World War I was a brutal, agonizing wake-up call. It was the first time we saw tanks, chemical gas, and aerial dogfights. It was a tragedy. On a scale no one had ever imagined, a grinding gears of war moment that ended empires that had lasted for centuries. But even in the middle of that darkness, human ingenuity didn't stop. It just shifted gears. When the soldiers came home, they brought with them a new world. The 1920s hit like a lightning bolt. We're talking about the Roaring Twenties, jazz music, the Charleston, and for the first time ever, the radio. Imagine being in your living room and hearing a voice or a symphony from 1,000 miles away for the very first time. It must have felt like actual magic. We were becoming a global culture. We were listening to the same music, laughing at the same jokes, and for the first time, we were all buying the same products. Of course, the party couldn't last forever. The 1930s showed us just how fragile this new, interconnected world really was. The Great Depression wasn't just about money, it was a psychological blow that shook the foundation of the modern dream. It taught us that the systems we built were powerful, but they were also incredibly sensitive. And just as we started to pull ourselves out of the dirt, the world caught fire again. World War II was the defining moment of the century. It was a struggle for the very soul of humanity that pushed us to our absolute limits, and then way past them. We saw the worst of what humans could do to each other, but we also saw the most incredible displays of bravery and cooperation in history. And at the very end of it, in 1945, everything changed again. The atomic bomb didn't just end the war, It introduced a new kind of existential fear. For the first time in history, we had the power to literally delete ourselves from the planet. Before we get into how we survived that tension and reached for the stars, I have to ask, are you enjoying this trip through time? If you're finding this as wild as I am, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right now. We're constantly diving into the stories that shaped our world, and I'd love to have you along for the ride as we explore more of these incredible moments. Seriously, it helps the channel out a ton and ensures you don't miss our next deep dive. Alright, back to the madness. So, here's the crazy part. Instead of collapsing under the pressure of the Cold War, the post-war era became an explosion of growth. Unlike anything we'd ever seen. The 1950s and 60s were like a fever dream of progress. We moved into the suburbs, we bought televisions that brought the world into our dens, and we started looking at the stars with a new kind of hunger. The space race wasn't just about politics or beating the other guy, it was about the ultimate what if. Could we actually leave? Could we step off this rock and touch something else? When Neil Armstrong stepped onto the lunar surface in 1969, the entire planet stopped and watched. For one brief moment, we weren't Americans or Russians or any other label, we were just humans, looking back at our tiny blue home from the total silence of the moon. That image changed our perspective forever. It made the world feel smaller, more precious, and a lot more connected. While we were looking at the moon, things were changing. On the ground, too. The 1960s were a cultural earthquake. Civil rights, women's rights, the counterculture, we were tearing down old walls and trying to figure out how to live together in a way that actually made sense. We were questioning authority, experimenting with new ideas, and demanding a seat at the table for everyone. It was loud, it was chaotic, and it was absolutely necessary. And right as that dust was settling, a quiet revolution was happening in garages and labs across the world. The computer. At first, they were the size of entire rooms and did less than your modern toaster. But every year, they got smaller. Every year, they got faster. We were teaching machines how to think, and in the process, we were changing how we lived. By the time we hit the 1980s, the digital age was starting to breathe on its own. We had the first video games, the first portable Walkmans, and the first hints of something called the World Wide Web. The Cold War, which had been this heavy, grey cloud hanging over everyone for decades, finally started to evaporate. When the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, it felt like the end of history. It felt like we had finally figured it out. We were moving toward a world without borders, a world where information was free, and everyone was connected. The 1990s were the victory lap. We had the internet, we had cell phones that were actually portable, and we had a sense of optimism that felt unstoppable. We were surfing the web, watching the birth of Google, and wondering just how far this digital rabbit hole would go. But let's take a step back and look at the big picture. Looking back at those 100 years, it's almost hard to wrap your head around the statistics. In 1900, the average life expectancy was about 47. By 1999, it was nearly 80. Think about that, we essentially gave everyone on Earth another 30 years of life. We cured diseases like polio and smallpox that had killed billions throughout history. We figured out how to split the atom, how to map the human genome, and how to put a computer in everyone's pocket. We invented the jet engine, the microwave, the laser, the credit card, and the satellite. We went from wondering if there was life on other planets to sending robots to the surface of Mars to go find it. But more than the gadgets and the medicine, the 20th century changed how we think. It challenged our prejudices, it tested our resilience, and it forced us to grow up as a species. We learned that we are capable of unimaginable destruction, but we also learned that we have an infinite capacity for discovery and empathy. We saw the rise of global movements for peace and equality that would have been unthinkable to someone living in the 1800s. We started to see ourselves not as isolated tribes, but as a single, interconnected global family. It wasn't always easy, and it definitely wasn't always pretty, but the progress was undeniable. So, here we are, living in the shadow of that massive century. We're dealing with the challenges it left behind, the environmental impact of our industrial boom, the complexities of our digital lives, and the lingering tensions of a world still trying to find its balance. But we're also standing on the shoulders of the giants who lived through it. We are the first generation in history to have the entire sum of human knowledge available at our fingertips in a matter of seconds. We are the first to be truly, globally connected in real time. The 20th century was a wild, terrifying, beautiful ride that took us from the dirt to the stars. It was the century that didn't just change the world, it created the world we live in today. It gave us the tools to build a future that our great-grandparents couldn't have even dreamed of. And the best part? We're just getting started on the next chapter. If the last 100 years were about building the foundation, the next 100 are about seeing just how high we can go. I'd love to know what you think was the single biggest invention of the 20th century. Was it the plane? The internet? Or maybe something as simple as the washing machine? Drop a comment below and let's get a conversation going. And if you want to see more content like this, maybe check out our video on the hidden history of the space race. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Catch you in the next one.